Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. Let's reach for new heights as we dig deep into another event experience, this time with Brian Mason, Vice President of Strategy and Operations for CEMA. Their annual user conference summit is the topic of our discussion as Brian reveals how technology and immersive engagement at Summit help the team at CEMA stay true to their audience's needs. Plus, you'll learn about all that CEMA does year-round to ensure that you, dear listener, can always level up your event experience. Today's guest has a vast history in events with some household names even, like Salesforce and Snack Crackle Pop, though the latter is not to be confused with the cereal, let's be clear. Today, he is the Vice President of Strategy and Operations for the Corporate Event Marketing Association, which we all lovingly know as CEMA. Happy to welcome Brian Mason across microphones today. Brian, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm super happy to be here. Just really happy to be with the organization and speaking with you today.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be great. I love where we spell out what is a household name probably amongst event professionals, which is CEMA. It's like, did you know that it stands for this? And now
Right,
you do.
Exactly.
Well, I gave a super high level overview, like not even of you, but that's why I want to toss this back over to you. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners, name, your title, kind of what you do for CEMA?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Brian Mason, and I am the VP of Strategy and Operations for CEMA. I say that because I'm still in my honeymoon phase. I've been here for just 6 months. Although I've been a CEMA member for well over a decade, and I was on the advisory board for a year prior to this full-time position coming available. And prior to that, I was at Salesforce, like you said. So I've been at Salesforce. I was at Salesforce for 14 and a half years, weaving my way through the event ecosystem of that organization.
Excellent. Well, I think any of us, if we had Salesforce on our resume, would be like, haha, very awesome. So, but now you have CEMA on your resume, and, of course, people can go check you out. We'll tell everybody where to follow you on LinkedIn so they can go learn more about what I said about Snap, Crackle, Pop. What are your go-to on-the-ground event day shoes for those, multiple hour, double-digit hour days? What do you use?
Yeah, so I use on-cloud tennis shoes. I discovered those this last year, and they are so comfortable, whether I'm exercising or whether I'm on a convention floor for 12 hours a day. They are so comfortable. So I would have to say I've got about 5 pairs of on-clouds now that I just keep rotating so that they don't ever get old. But those are my go-to shoes for sure.
Excellent choice. Highly recommended by many event experience guests. Is there anything that you're listening to, watching, or reading these days that you can't put down?
Yeah, so I'm a political junkie right now. So I'm watching a lot of news. So that's kind of where my focus is. For me, traveling the world, seeing all kinds of different governments and different cultures, I am always amazed that we have a peaceful transfer of power every 4 years. Democracy can be messy, and I think it was designed to be messy, to be honest with you. So I love watching the messiness of it, but knowing that it's a really great thing. And so that's what I do.
I relate with that very much as well. We'll have to compare notes offline, like where we like to find our news and engage about that stuff, because I'm talking about it every day, all day too.
Awesome.
Yes. Is there a particular social post or a piece of media or even a hot take about events that you found interesting lately?
AI, which we haven't mentioned that much today, is obviously the topic that everyone is talking about. And I think we will be talking about it for the next several years to a decade, because it is changing the industry so much. And I think when it really came out, when ChatGPT came out about a year and a half ago, that it just kind of exploded for everyone. We're like, how is this going to work? And what is going to happen? And so I think right now we're just now trying to figure that out, right? So anything I can read on that or understand or hear people help us understand, because it is changing the way the events are created And so I love it. I can remember, I'm old enough to know when we didn't have mobile phones, like when I would go to an event and we would have a fax line at the event for contracts.
Yes.
So I know now how mobile phones have changed the industry. And I know that AI is going to do even bigger things in the event industry and changing that. So that's kind of where my head is right now.
I just need everybody listening. If you remember T9 texting, you need to go on both of our LinkedIn, which you're about to learn Brian's LinkedIn, but go find us and say, I remember those days, and we'll immediately relate with each of you, because yes, I remember that too. And oh my gosh, we were actually, this is totally aside, I think I was on a flight and I watched The Departed. Oh yeah. And there's a like where Matt Damon's character is T9 texting in his pocket, like without looking at it. And I'm like, that is how you know.
Right?
What generation you are. That's so funny.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's get into what we're going to talk about today, because, we do span all kinds of topics with our guests. And on occasion, we do zero in on a specific event. And we're going to do that today. We're going to talk about Summit by CEMA. And we're going to get into the why we're talking about this particular one. But can you first tell us about Summit as if we're all meeting it for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that I like to say about Summit is that it's kind of two things in one. Summit, it is our annual user conference, for the lack of a better word there. However, I think of Summit in two ways. I think of it as a family reunion. I've been attending summits, like I say, for over 10 years. And with event marketers' schedules as busy as they are, they just don't have a chance to go and hang out with their friends, and other people in the industry. So that really is the heart of it, is this family reunion and where we build relationships. I can really track my path through event marketing, through relationships that I've built through Summit over the past 15 years, and am super excited about it. Also, I think it's an opportunity for us to have education where we really learn from one another. I think the unique thing about this specific community is we like sharing knowledge with each other. We like sharing best practices. We like, hey, what are you seeing on the trends? What are you seeing, in new technologies? And we share that through Summit, through different educational aspects of there. And so I think that's a really unique thing. I think a couple of things on Summit. I attended a breakout session this year with Michelle Snyder and Stacy Kasherbach and Erica Brunke. And if you are in the industry, you know these three ladies very well. They've been in the industry for a very long time. And, their session was about moving out of being an event marketer and being a consultant. And I thought, wow, this is a really great aspect of how I've watched their careers. And in case of Michelle Snyder, who had hired me, followed her career as she moved and grew throughout the industry. And now they're starting their own companies and becoming consultants. And, I think that is really key to what we do and how we share and grow, with the organization.
That's so great. I love, if you ever ask an event prof, the vibe that they're aiming for when they plan an event, if they could say, yes, everyone thinks it's a family reunion, winner. That's such a great feeling.
It is. And, and people schedule their vacation time around this, and that's why we try to make it in really fun, cool places, because we want it to be fun and cool as well as education.
Yeah, I love that. And, I think we're going to dig into this now too, why we're focusing on the event. We talked about the general vibe that results from it, but, every event starts out with the goals people have for it. So could you share with us what the goals are around Summit, why it is held every year on repeat, and what you're striving for there?
Yeah, like I say, it is that one point in time when we all get to come together. But I think this year's Summit was very specific, had some very specific goals into it. Mm-hmm. PCMA, our parent company now, merged with us in 2021, and that was the middle of COVID. And at that time, we were all trying to just save our jobs, right? People weren't talking about career paths and growth. We were just like, can we have an event? Yes. Our event's going to happen, And through that, and then through the merger, and then through a couple different leadership changes, there were some questions about CEMA. I mean, that we were just honest, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? So this year, we were back. Nice. We were back with a vengeance. We brought the energy back. We brought the culture of the community back. We brought the fun back. And people were really excited. Some specific goals that we had, we wanted to be about 550, which is pushing for us the amount of people because we liked it to be an event. But we were over 600 people, which was great. We were super excited about that. And we had almost 100 people on the wait list, which is really important for us because CEMA has a no selling atmosphere. This is what makes CEMA different than a lot of different event marketing organizations.
Yeah.
And we try to keep a ratio of 50% of our attendees are event marketers and 50% are industry partners. Of course, we have a lot of buying power in that room. So industry partners want to be there.
Yeah.
But we really keep it to a 50-50 ratio. And that's what makes CEMA really unique. And so unfortunately, there were about 100 people that weren't able to get in. And we look to grow that. We look to grow a little bit next year, but we were really excited to see everyone back, enthusiastic about growing their careers, changing, and learning.
Awesome. I just knowing too that you prioritize that focus, those goals so stringently. I mean, obviously everybody wants to have all the registrations, but you are really saying, yes, we'd like that. However, let's really keep this to what it's intended to be and not make it super saturated, which I think is great. Tell us a little bit more too, like who's the target audience for Summit? What are your ideal personas that attend Summit every year?
Yeah. Absolutely. And so and they're really for CEMA in general, is we are looking for event marketing executives and leaders. And so that for us, our sweet spot really is around senior managers to vice presidents. That's where we have a sweet spot in. That's where people are growing and learning their careers and where they've learned enough that they want to share and give back as well. So that's really where we sit. Our advisory board is looking at both ends of those target markets as well. It's like, what are we going to be doing for the younger audience that's just starting? And what are we doing for those people that have been with us for a really long time that need a more executive track? Those are things that we're going to start building out in the future. But right now, that target audience, that sweet spot is really those event leaders that are in the day-to-day building out events throughout the year.
I can very much appreciate this, and I think our listeners can too. I love that you are telling us through the focus and the goals and the target audience for Summit, an event for event marketers, how marketing works, because you really are narrowing the persona, the target audience. You could go broader, you could go bigger, but you're saying, let's keep it, and still assessing like where do you expand smartly, but goodness, you're beefing up education for people. And that is largely going to be the very titles and roles that you just mentioned. It's people who are just trying to progress their career, maybe haven't reached the pinnacle of it yet, right? But they're trying to level up, and that's what this event is for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's just as important for our members to give back as it is to learn. So you're at that point when you're like, oh, I want to give back. I want to go and speak. I want to share my knowledge and experience with those people that are just starting or mid-career, whatever that might be. So I think that's really special about our industry is like they want to give back as much as they want to learn.
Yeah.
And that makes for a really great event.
Yeah. Well, give to get, which is also part of marketing.
Yeah.
So we just keep harping. There's so much marketing into this marketing conference. Let me ask you this. Was there anything special or unique, a unique aspect to the event you'd like to call out, like an innovation or an element of tech or any engagement effort that you think really just shines forth?
I think, that's a big question because we try to take risk where maybe some of our members can't take risk in their corporate jobs, right? We want to showcase some innovation that they might not know about or have and use. We also might try something, a new speaker or something that they're not able to do. So for example, Projectory was our opening keynote this year. And Projectory is a company that really brings immersive engagement into your audience with some of the biggest questions of the industry. And they're very visual in doing this. So this is if you can imagine a room of 60 rounds in a big keynote room with large balloons on each table. And every question that we asked, the table had engagement and discussion around it. And then the balloons would lower or raise based on 4 answers that we've given. And it was really cool to look across the room and see all of these balloons moving up and down, and then starting conversation about, okay, well, we see most of the people are at this level, or most of the people at this level. And it was just a really engaging way for people to start conversation with each other at a table that they might not know, so that was one really interesting. I think another really interesting technology was our click badges that we had. So click badges, if you don't know, well, you do because you're from Bizzabo, but the click badges, I think, were one of the key things that we heard from people that was like, this is amazing. I haven't seen this and I want to use this at my event. And what they do is on your registration badge, you can literally just touch badges together and your contact information is shared with the person that you clicked from within the event app. My gosh, I didn't have to come home with a handful of cards that I'm like, okay, now who was this person again? I was like, it's right there. I loved sharing my click badge all over the place. And they were part of what we call Innovation Nation. And Innovation Nation was an opportunity for 5 of our technology people to come in and show some of their biggest innovations of technology that they're sharing with our industry events. And it was really great to see that, because some of those things are new, we don't know about, and it gives them an opportunity to share use case and studies and for people to really say, oh, that might be something that I can use for my event. On top of all of that, there are some really specific topics that people wanted to talk about, and we made sure that there were sessions: sustainability, accessibility, neurodivergency. Those are really big trends that we're seeing within the industry and how to make events better. And so we wanted to make sure that we were talking about those. Like, this is important to people. And so we try to push the edge as much as we can.
That's great. Also again, correlated to marketing, but I like that you mentioned Click. It is pretty phenomenal. And speaking as someone who has brought home a swath of business cards from events where I'm like, I get to go find these people on LinkedIn and so
right.
But you're right. It makes it so much easier, but it sounds really cool too. I love the balloon idea, and that goes so analog where you've got, it really just demonstrates any idea can work. You can have tech there, but you can also just use stuff that is, tactile and tangible to demonstrate like some engagement. So I'm sure a lot of people are like, that's a great idea. Gonna borrow that for our next event, which is really cool.
Exactly. And like I say, people might not be able to say until they see it happen, they might not be able to say, I want to do that, and so we really try to offer those kind of things so people can see them. They can see how other people are using them before they take the risk of doing that at their own event.
You're so right about that too. I like that there's this recognition that, people are working for brands and all of them have their different levels of comfort with how much of a big swing do we want to take here. And you're saying, let's take care of that friction, that discomfort for you and let you decide. So super helpful that you're providing that as well for them to kind of have a testing ground to say, that is something that would fit with our brand and we should try. I love that you do that. That's great.
Yeah. When we onboard new members, the 3 things that they say they want to join CEMA for are innovation, education, and networking.
Nice.
And so that really aligns with what we do, why we do that, to bring people those kind of opportunities all throughout the year, not just at Summit, but all throughout the year.
We'll be right back with more event experience after the break. Ever wished your event badge did more than just display your name? Whether you're an event organizer, exhibitor, or attendee, Bizzabo's Click Smart Badge transforms the event experience. From interactive networking to real-time attendee insights and lead capture, the Smart Badge is the ultimate game changer. Visit bizzabo.com/click. That's bizzabo.com/KLIK to learn more about the next generation of wearable event technology. Bizzabo, your partner for building conferences that captivate. We're back with Brian Mason to learn what CEMA has going all year round for event planners. I know you do things throughout the year, and I want to be clear too, because I know you corrected me on this, and I want to make sure our listeners get it too. Summit is an event by CEMA. the two are not, and it's not, it just very distinctive, different things there. But CEMA provides Summit each year as an event, but you do a bunch of other stuff too throughout the year as far as like resources for people to engage with. What kind of stuff do you do?
We have a ton of things that we do throughout the year. I will invite listeners to go to CEMAonline.com to see all of these things, but I'll talk about a couple of them with you today. One of the backbones and one of the things that I loved about CEMA all the years that I was as a member is our study tours. So study tours are 1.5 to 2 day events that we take about 30 people from our membership to a specific event, a user conference or a large scale event, and really give them a behind the scenes look at that event, how it was created, how it looks to an event planner to put that event on, how it looks to those executives and what those executives' goals were at that event, and also how you go in as an attendee. We as an event planners don't really get to go as attendees. So, going in and seeing an event through attendees' eyes is way different. You can learn so much that way. We've done about 6 of these study tours in 2024. Our second one we just did most recently was at the U.S. Olympic swimming trials in Indianapolis. And I tell you, when we first started, people were like, why are we going to the swimming trials? I'm like, first of all, there's going to be 250,000 people. They're going to break records for swimming. Secondly, it was so cool to see the swimmers that went to Paris then and won all these gold medals. But Indianapolis did an amazing job. And we had panels from that swimming trials show us how they put on that event. We had members from the NCAA come in and talk to us about how they create their championship with thousands and thousands of people. And then we also had a panel from the NBA All-Star, which was held in Indianapolis. So it really became this kind of sports-oriented weekend. And so we really try to make these educational experiences that people don't get an opportunity to go to. In September, we'll be at Workday Rising. In December, we're going to be at Art Basel in Miami, which I'm so excited to be there. It's a very exclusive event for us to go. And it's one of those things that are hot and trending and people want to see, hey, what is hot and trending? What am I missing? What do I want to see out there about engagements and activations and what are brands doing? How are they working with customers? So our organization has a lot of B2B event marketers. So looking at B2C as well as B2B events really gives them ideas on how to grow their organization.
You're bringing up something that I've definitely heard. We have, we're going to get to in a little bit, our skill up segment we ask for each of our guests, but so many of them have mentioned how beneficial it is for an event planner to be able to attend events. I like that you're talking about ones that are a departure from the industry or the vertical that they're used to tackling. They might think, well, what am I going to get out of going to something that has nothing to do with my target audience or my brand? And it's like, well, all events have some commonalities in them, what they're trying to achieve. You could come away from what you might think is an unrelated topical event and have some great ideas for yours. So I think that's so cool that you provide that to just that escape or that departure, going outside the box for, event planners to kind of learn from that.
One of my favorite events that we did was we went to the NFL draft. And a couple of years ago, the NFL did a really great job of taking an event that was super boring and super specific to one audience and expanded it and made it this fan experience that now tens of thousands of people attend, So looking to make that shift, like you still have to have security. You still have to have accessibility. You still have to have sustainability. Yeah. You still have to have audience acquisition. You still have to do all of those things. And as event marketers, you're going to find those in whatever event that we're at.
That's right. That's right. Well, this podcast is about event experience. It's all in the name.
Yeah.
What could our listeners learn from the specific event experience of Summit that you just came off of?
I think the one thing that I think about Summit, what I've learned is when you're planning your event, stay true to your audience and listen to them, because they will tell you exactly what you need at your event. They are not shy about that. Your attendees will tell you that. And really us being true to what our memberships want in an event and creating it is super important. So I think that is really the thing that I would take away from Summit. I mean, I've built such strong relationships from Summit. I've helped people's career. I've helped my career. And so I think building relationships that no matter what event that you're at is really what we're all trying to do. We're trying to make that connection one way or the other.
Couldn't agree more with that. I tell my 18-year-old son all the time now,
Yeah.
I need you to get on LinkedIn. I need you to do it because it really, and that's just one app, but it does all boil down to who you know. Those connections could make a big difference. You alluded to it earlier. You said, especially we all went through that and might still be going through it where, we just wanted to hold on to our jobs. You don't know if somebody that you connected to in the past, recent or far, could have an impact on your success and your livelihood with your career. So completely agree with that. I love that you shared that.
Yeah. And I mean, even this job that I have now, 10 years ago, if you had told me I was going to be doing this, I would never have thought that I would be in this vice president role at this organization, but you can really track my career growth from CEMA members and through mentors that I've gained along the way through this organization and through, networks, like you say, in meeting people, building those strong.
Absolutely. And then what's up next for Summit?
So next is up for Summit. We will be in Austin, July 27th through the 29th next year at the Fairmount Hotel, which we are really thrilled to be in Texas. CEMA has had a history of being on the West Coast quite a bit because that's where we originated from. And so we're growing across the United States and building up strong. So going to different places like Seattle, we were this year, and Texas next year is a really great opportunity for us to be there. So you can go to CEMA online right now and sign up for a save the date and be the first to know when registration starts.
Well, haven't been to Austin, I highly recommend going if you haven't been before.
Yeah.
And if you are familiar with Austin, just go visit Austin anyway, because Summit will be there next July. So that'll be fantastic. Easiest question of all, Brian, where can our listeners find and follow you online?
You can reach out to me through old school email at brian@cemaonline.com. And you can visit the website, cemaonline.com as well. And then Brian Mason, MBA, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm right there.
To help you skill up your event experience, Brian has advice about when to raise your hand for help.
Well, obviously, it would be join CEMA as a member, okay? But that, like you said, is the obvious one. But I would say what I have told my nieces and nephews is find a mentor. Don't be afraid to ask. People want to help. They want to be there. So go ask someone that you're like, I want your job one day. How can I get it? And it might be 10 years away, but I want to know how you got there, right? And people really want to help others. So look for a mentor, look for two mentors, look for your own personal board of directors. There's a wide variety of people that could be your board of directors that you look to for guidance along the way in your career. So don't be afraid to raise your hand.
Thanks again to Brian Mason for joining us on Event Experience. And thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.